29. So we're going to start from 52. Hare Krishna. Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 22. Jagti Chalabhashantashtha Dannadita Vimucharaha Shama Siddha Vasiddha Chau Kritapi na Nivaddhate.
He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions.
Number 23. Gvato Shangasha Muktasha Jnanavastita Chetashaha Yagyaya Charata Karma Sharmagrang Prabiliyate.
The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence.
Number 24. Brahmarpanam Brahmavi Brahmagnai Brahmahutam Brahmaiva Tenagantapam Brahma Karma Samadhina.
A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature.
Number 25. Daivo me papare yagnam yogi na paryupashate brahmagna papare yagna yoga noiva pajuhate.
Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman.
Number 26. Shrutadinindriyananne Shangyamani Magni Kajuvati Shabdadin Vishayananna Indriyagneshu Juvati.
Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process of the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses.
Number 27. Sharvanindriya Karmani Prana Karmani Chapare Atma Sanjama Yogagnoi Juvati Ganadipate.
Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the function of all the senses and of the life breath and of oblations into the fire of the controlled mind.
Number 28. Drabho Yogastabo Yagna Yoga Yagnastata Tapare Shraddha Yogana Yogasha Jata Yatayo Sangshita Prataha.
Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge.
Number 29. Apane jivati pranang praneho panang tatha pare prana prana gati ruddha pranayam parayanaha.
Still others who are inclined to the process of breath, restrained to remain in trance, practice by offering the movements of the outgoing breath into the incoming, and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice.
Number 30. Apayeniyattaharaha pranang praneshu juvati sharbe upati yagvida yagna kopita kalmasha.
All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice becomes clean of sinful reaction, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifice, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere.
31. Yagna shishta mito bhuja yanti brahma sanatanam nayang loke hasta jagasha kutohanna kurushottama.
O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next?
Number 32. Evam bahu vidha yagna vitato brahmana mukhe karma jana vidditan tan sharvaneva agata vibhakshase.
All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated.
Number 32. Sriyandrapa maya jagad jnana yagna param tapa sarvam karma kilam partha jnane parishamapate.
O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possession. After all, Osana Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge.
Number 34. Tadvidhi pranipatena praniprasnena shevaya upodakshanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina.
Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge into the because they have seen the truth.
Yajgatana punarmoho yevam jajoshi pandava jena bhutanna sheshani dakshakshmatmatai mai.
Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine.
Number 36. Yopi chedashi papebha sharvebha papakritamaha sharvangano plone peneva brijinang shantarishashi.
Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries.
Number 37. Jathaidangshi shamidaha gnivasya shat kurute jana jnanagni sharva karmani bhashma shat kurute tatha.
As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities.
Number 38. Nahi jnanena sangdrishang pavitra miha vitate tatsyayang jagashang siddha kale natmi vindate.
In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of the mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time.
Number 39. Shraddhavan labhute gyanam tatparasham jitindriyah gyanam labdha param shantim shantim achirena dhigacchati.
A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and so subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace.
Number 40. Agyascha sraddhadhanascha Shanshayatma bineshati Nayang lokastina para Nashukhang Shanshayatmanaha.
But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next.
Number 41. Yoga Shanshyanasta Karmanang Jnana Shanshichana Shanshayam Atmabantang na Karmani Nivaddanti Dhananjaya.
One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches.
Number 42. Tasmadakyana sambhutang ritsang ganashitatmanaha chittainang shangshayo yoga matishto tishta bharata.
Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. Hare Krishna.
Om Tatsat iti Sri Bhagavad Gita Shupanishatsu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Sambhade Jnana Yoga Namang Chatuttataya Hari Om Tatsat. Hare Krishna. Please
Hare
accept my
Krishna.
obeisances and please forgive me any pronunciation, anything, please. Thank
No
Please
problem at all.
forgive me
Absolutely
if I made
fine.
any mistake.
No problem at all. Sipra Mataji, you did well. There was no mistakes, and Palika Mataji pronunciations were perfect. I think just one or two verses which were written slightly differently in Prabhupada's book. I think around 28, 29. There was you were like according to it there was two verses I think that didn't go according to the words were right,
yeah.
but they're written slightly differently in Prabhupada's book. But it's okay. We got all that.
Thank
You
you.
so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, devotees. So let me just now share the PowerPoint. Okay. Can you all see the PowerPoint?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. I'll just organize a few things here. Right, that's it. So we continue. Okay, first of all, for those of you who logged in today to listen to the sweet voice of Madhukumari, I'm sorry to disappoint. She phoned me this afternoon and she wanted me to do the session today because she was otherwise occupied. So I'm sorry, you have to put up with me instead of Madhukumari. So we'll continue reading from the 4th chapter. Today we're on text 24.
It's good to have you, Mukunda-Hari, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll do the quick chapter summary so far. So text 1 to 10, Krishna spoke about the transcendental knowledge. Well, it was all about Krishna. He gave the knowledge about his own transcendental situation. 11 to 15, how to apply the transcendental knowledge. And this current section, which is 16 to 24, we are understanding karma on the platform of jnana. So now, coming to today's verse, number 24. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 24. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma Kadma Samadhina. Translation and purport of Sri Prabhupada. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. So we move on to the purport. There's 3 parts to the purport. So I'm going to just pre-select three devotees who can read this. So I've got, okay, so Anju Mataji, if you can read the first page, and then Chetna Mataji, the second page, and then we go to Nitai Mata Mataji for the third page. Let's hope all 3 of you are able to unmute. But if you can, yes, Anju Mataji, if you can please do the first one.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Page 1. How activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness, and all of them will be described in the following verses. But for the present, just the principle of Krishna consciousness is described. A conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in the material atmosphere, and yet he has to get out of such an environment. The process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk products is cured by another milk product, namely curd. The materially absorbed conditioned soul can be cured by Krishna consciousness as set forth here in the Gita. This process is generally known as yajna, or activities, sacrifices simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna.
Thank you, thank you, Anju Mataji. Thank you. Chetna Mataji, are you able to unmute?
Yeah, sure. Right, okay. The more the activities of the material world are performed in Krishna consciousness or for Vishnu only, the more the atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. The word Brahman, means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual, and the rays of his transcendental body are called Brahma Jyotir, his spiritual effulgence. Everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyotir, but when the Jyotir is covered by illusion, Maya, or sense gratification, it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together, Brahman, or the absolute truth.
Thank you so much, Chetna Mataji.
Hare
And
Krishna.
Nitai Mata Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter, total for the course of the absolute truth, regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman, or the Supreme. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yajna, or sacrifice for the absolute. In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or leader of the performance, and the result or ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the Absolute, the Supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. Thank you,
Thank you
Prabhu.
so much, Mother Matri. Thank you. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Papitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swamine Tinamine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamine Tinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasha Kadeshtarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So there's a lot to cover in today's purport, but I've just picked a few main points. And also today is Gopashtami, so I intend to, time permitting, I intend to speak a little bit about Gopashtami as well. Today is also the disappearance day of some very important acharyas in our parampara, so we can have time to speak about it as well. So it's going to be quite a lot to cover in a short while, but let's see how I go. So diving in, well, before that, I'll just go to the text. So Havi is butter. Havi translated by Prabhupada as butter. Havi, but actually that also means, can generalize as samagri, whatever we offer into the sacrifice. And the word Brahma in different forms is used quite a few times here. Brahma meaning the absolute. Brahma can mean anything spiritual. So you can see sometimes the Supreme Lord, Krishna, is referred to as Brahma. And then the Brahma Jyoti is referred to as Brahman. And also the spirit soul is referred to as Brahman. So literally anything spiritual can be called Brahman. So here in the translation, Brahma is spiritual in nature, then Brahma, the supreme, then again Brahma, the spiritual, Brahmana by the spirit soul, Brahma, the spiritual kingdom, and Brahma, spiritual. So you can see literally everything. So this verse is full of the absolute truth. Very interesting verse. So we're going to go on to the purport, pick up the main points and see how we get. So purport starts off by saying how activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. So literally you can say that this particular verse and the purport, it summarizes the total philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So in just a couple of lines later, Prabhupada continues, the conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in the material atmosphere. Yet he has to get out of such an environment. So the point here is the spirit soul is completely pure, as we do know. Spiritual is completely pure. It is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and because the Supreme Lord is the absolute truth and the absolute pureness, the spirit soul, being part and parcel of that Lord, is also by nature in this constitutional position completely pure. But when it comes in contact with nature, with three modes of nature specifically, then it becomes covered by the modes. We'll have a look at a verse that talks about it in a minute. But analogy sometimes is given by acharyas is like rainwater. So what rainwater is pure distilled water. As we know, the process is there's lots of water on earth, but but vast majority of the water that's on the planet is not usable. It's not usable to drink or cook or irrigation, because it's mostly salt water. All the big oceans are salt water. But by wonderful arrangement, Krishna, with the power of the sun, arranges for the water to be evaporated, and that becomes a process of distillation. That evaporated water collects in the form of clouds. Then again, Krishna, in the form of Vayu, with the wind, moves the cloud to a different position where the rain is needed. And then it releases the water. So that water, completely pure. But as it enters into the atmosphere, because if there is pollution in the atmosphere, the water becomes impure. Now, sometimes you can think of a very, very clean place, maybe in the middle of the country somewhere, where there's no industry nearby, there's no fumes of any kind. There maybe the atmosphere is very, very pure. So there the water can be pure until the time it actually hits the ground. But once it hits the ground, again, it'll pick up the impurities from the ground. So similarly, the pure soul, the wonderful, supreme pureness of the soul, it gets contaminated when it comes into the atmosphere of the material nature. And there's a verse in the 14th chapter, text 5. Svatvam rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhava nibadnanti mahabaho dehinam avyayam. Here Krishna explains that material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, Almighty Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. See, the meanings here in this particular verse, Mahabaho, referring to Arjuna as mighty armed. So in the indirect meaning there is that no matter how powerful one is, a soul may be very powerful, but when it comes in contact with nature, it becomes contaminated. It becomes conditioned by the modes. Very short purport on this. So the living entity, because he is transcendental, has nothing to do with its material nature. Still, because he has become conditioned by the material world, is acting under the spell of the three modes of nature. Because living entities have different kinds of bodies in terms of different aspects of nature, they are induced to act according to that nature. That is the cause of the varieties of happiness and distress. So how a living entity gets all these different, as we know, it's 8.4 million different species of life, and how one gets different bodies from one birth to the next, that is described in the third canto of the Bhagavatam, text 30, chapter 31, text 1, where the Lord says, Karmana deva netrena jantu deho papattaye striya pravishta udaram humso reta kanashraya. So this tiny reta kana ashraya, this tiny soul, it is made to enter into the womb of a female through the particle of male semen, according to the karma. Karmana deva netrana. Karmana means according to his activities and the result of his activities, and deva netrana means under the supervision of a superior power. So we can say under the supervision of material nature, or even under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. But this is how we are moving from one body to the other. So that is covered. How we obtain different bodies, we've covered. And then how our nature is affected in these different bodies. That is covered in the 22nd chapter, so 22nd text of 13th chapter, where Krishna says, Purusha prakriti stohi bhumta prakriti jan guna karanam guna sangasya sat asat yoni janmasu. So the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with this material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil amongst various species, which means he has a good life, happy life, or a bad life. If all due to our association with different modes. So this is why the first thing we do when we come to any spiritual path is to move at least to the mode of goodness. And then we can use that as a platform to launch ourselves further. But we need to be at least in the mode of goodness so that we are not driven to the lower species of life with lower natures. So Prabhupada says again in that purport, how is put into such different bodies is explained here. It is due to association with different modes of nature. One has to rise, therefore, above the three modes and become situated in a transcendental position. This is called Krishna consciousness. Unless one is situated in Krishna consciousness, this material consciousness will oblige him to transfer from one body to another because he has material desire since time immemorial. But he has to change that conception. Prabhupada says in the purport, yet he has to get out of this environment. We cannot remain in this environment because otherwise we are risking going down to the hellish worlds and then staying here forever. Prabhupada continues in the purport, the process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. The process is generally known as yajna, or activities, sacrifices simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna. So, taking the first part, we can get out of this by the material atmosphere by Krishna consciousness. So what is Krishna consciousness? Krishna consciousness is literally turning our consciousness towards Krishna. What's happening is all of us have come to the material world because of envy of Krishna. And once we come to the material world, we forget about Krishna. And Prabhupada often quotes this verse, Krishna bhuliya jeev bhogavancha kare, pashate maya tare japatiyate. As soon as we forget Krishna bhuliya, and we bhogavancha, if we then run after our material desires, sense gratification, then Maya grabs us. And the more we entangle ourselves in sense gratification, the harder the grip of Maya will be on us. So the process we need to apply in this age, different ages, different processes. In the age of Satya Yuga, people were doing deep meditation because they had very, very long lifespans and they could do meditation for thousands of years. That was their process. In the Treta Yuga, what was the process? Anybody know Treta Yuga?
Fire sacrifice.
Yagna.
Fire sacrifice. Yagna.
Yes, fire sacrifices. That yagna, that was a process. But that process also, we do the havans nowadays, little havan at home. But actually, there is not much benefit. The real benefit was in Treta Yuga because they were doing very, very opulent fire sacrifices. We can't do that anymore. Then came Dwapar Yuga, and the process was
Deity worship.
deity worship, exactly, which we still continue to do. But the main process in this age is
Holy name.
Nam
Chanting of the
Sankirtan.
holy name.
Nam Sankirtan, exactly.
Holy name.
Mentioned in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 5, text 32, very famous verse. Anybody quote this verse, please? Krishna Varnam Krishna
Krishnam Sangapangam.
Yagye Sankirtanatya Praya Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. Here it says, in the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Of course, this is one of the evidences in Shastra. There are many, many different evidences in different Shastras about about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, about why how he's Supreme Personality God. He's Krishna himself. So Lord Krishna personally came in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give us this process for in Kali Yuga, Sankirtan Yagya. Prabhupada continues in the purport, in that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or the leader or the performance, and the result of or ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the absolute, the supreme. So literally, when we are on the spiritual platform, there is no duality. So everything is spiritual. So once we are doing a spiritual process, then, like in this case, referring to a particular yajna, yajna would be the contributors, so people who have contributed the samagri, for example, the contribution itself, the consumption by the fire, the performer of the yajna or the leader of the group, and the performance itself, and also the result or the ultimate gain, everything becomes spiritual, absolute. That is the point. So once we ourselves come into that platform, we want to ourselves rise above the modes of material nature, we come to a stage which is known as Brahma Bhuta. And in that stage, we become also completely spiritual. And you can see in this verse that nothing material then disturbs us. 1854, anybody? Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, anybody? Brahma Bhuta
Prasannatma Nashotati Kankati Sama Sarvesu Bhutesu Mad Bhakti.
There you go. This verse says, one who is thus transcendently situated, talking about becoming spiritual, as it mentioned in the verse we're discussing today. He at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotion service unto me. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, the devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. Since God is full, the living entity who is engaged in God's service and Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. He is just like a river cleansed of all dirty water. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna, he is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or aspire for gain, because he is full in the service of the Lord. So as you said, he is actually on the absolute platform, so nothing else then matters. So there's a lot more actually in the purport, but these are the main points that I picked up. So today, as we mentioned, it is Gopashtami. So Gopashtami, it is can somebody just say, explain what is Gopashtami?
Is that when Radharani
Krishna.
went
Hare
first time?
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Sorry.
Krishna. Sorry, let them say. Please.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Mata Mataji.
Is
Hare
Krishna,
When this was celebrated the day Nanda Maharaja gave Krishna to responsibility to look after the cows.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mata Mataji. Exactly. So this was a celebration which Nanda Maharaj arranged because that was when Krishna and Balaram both were over the age of 5, and the Gopas, including Nanda Maharaj, decided to give them more responsibility, because until then they were only looking after calves.
Calves.
Calves were small and they were easy to handle, and they were also nearby. They didn't go too far into the forest. So this was their responsibility. So the ages are divided like this. 1 to 5 they're called Kaumara. Then 5 to 10, anybody?
Jovan?
No, before that.
Is it Ponda?
Pauganda.
Poganda, yeah.
Pauganda. And 10 to 15?
That's
Jovan?
so
No, one step before Yovana.
Kishore?
Kishora?
Kaishora. And then 15 and over is Yovana.
That's
Yeah.
yes.
So because now Lord Balaram and Krishna were entering, or Lord Balaram had already entered, Krishna was now also entering the Pauganda stage, they were given higher responsibility. So they decided to have a big celebration ceremony, and they obviously cooked a big feast and everything. Everybody was very, very happy, all that. And what happened then was that Radharani, she wanted to also be part of the celebration, but she could not go with the cowherd boys. And she really wanted to be with the cowherd boys. So they made a plan. There was a Gopa called, what was her name? Subala.
Sakha.
Subala Sakha was his features were very similar to Radharani. Somewhere I read there were brothers and sisters, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, because of say what he went and they actually exchanged clothes. So Radharani dressed as Shubala. So you can see in this picture, dhoti and a turban and everything. And she then escaped from home like that. And then she joined the fun with the boys. So this disguised herself as a Gopa here. So on this day of Gopashtami, in many temples in India, they actually dress Radharani on the altar in a dhoti and kurza and stuff like that. Just so she's dressed like a Gopa. So this is a sweet pastime that also happened on that day. And of course, the cows are worshipped on this day as well. Another very nice pastime that happened was that Mother Yashoda, although the Gopas and Nanda Maharaj, they all decided to send the young boys into the deep forest with the big cows. Mother Yashoda, obviously being motherly nature, she was very worried. She was very concerned about Krishna. And she said to Krishna, look, I'll make some shoes for you because the land further into the forest will be very rough. There will be lots of pebbles and stones, and your feet are so komal. So please, you must put the shoes on. So Krishna says that, Mother, do the cows wear shoes? She says, no, they don't. He says, well, if they don't wear shoes, I don't want to wear shoes. If you want me to wear shoes, then you can please make shoes for the cows as well. And how many cows did Nanda Maharaj have?
900,000.
Exactly. Thank you, Urmila. 900,000 cows. So Yashoda Mataji is thinking, my God, I've just got one evening. Tomorrow morning, the boys are going out. How can I make 36,000 shoes for the cows? So she gave up the idea. Then she said, okay, don't worry about the shoes. Just be careful. But it's going to be very, very hot out there. The sun is sort of, blazing all day long. So at least take an umbrella with you. So Krishna says again, do the cows have umbrellas? No. So then if you want me to carry an umbrella, then can you make 900,000 umbrellas? But that's not enough because the cows don't have hands like me. They can't hold the umbrella. So you need to arrange for 900,000 men to follow the cows to hold the umbrella. So Mother Yashoda also then gave up on that idea. But the cows had heard this conversation, especially about the hard terrain, the pebbles and stones. So what the cows did that night, all the cows did not sleep. And they were trampling all over the forest where they knew Krishna would walk. And they trampled and crushed all the stones and pebbles and made the sand soft as anything. So when Krishna was out the next day, grazing the cows, he did not feel a single thing on his feet. Everything was smooth. So this is the pastime of Gopashtami. Of course, the cows are also worshipped on this day. So Gopashtami Mahotsav ki Jai.
Yeah.
So today also we're celebrating some Vaishnava Acharyas. It's a disappearance day of Tirobha of three main Acharyas. So firstly, we have Sri Gadadhar Das Goswami. Just a brief introduction. Lots we can speak about these personalities, but Gadadhar Pandit, he was a devotee of Nityananda Prabhu, and he was a dedicated preacher apparently. He went door to door requesting everybody to chant the Maha Mantra. And it is said that he's credited to converting thousands of Muslims as well into chanting the Maha Mantra. Then we have Dhananjaya Pandit, who lived in Katwa. He's mentioned as a prominent devotee of, again, Nityananda Prabhu. He took part in many of Mahaprabhu's Kirtan pastimes, and he traveled wide preaching Krishna consciousness. And of course, Srinivas Acharya, he was one of the 3 devotees who were the first Sankirtan party, book distribution. They were the ones who actually brought all the literature from Vrindavan to Bengal. Lovely pastor, Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and one more, Shyamananda Pandit. So they were the original Sankirtan party. And during the journey, as we know, the pastime, they had a bullock cart, a cart full of literature which they were transporting all the way back. But when they were in a place called, I forget the name of the place now, but there was a king, and the king had a very bad habit. Any travelers who were going through his kingdom, he would, if they were carrying anything valuable, he would arrange for his men to go and loot them. That was his mentality. So his name was Virhambira king. He was told by an astrologer that right now there are 3 personalities who are carrying a cartload of immense treasure. So this king Virhambira arranged for that cart load to be stolen. So whilst the 3 devotees, Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and Shyamananda Pandit was resting, the cart was stolen. And of course, they were distraught when they woke up and found out that this treasure was gone. But when the king saw that there's no treasure, he was expecting lots of jewelry and diamonds and stuff. But he just saw books and he thought, what is this? The astrologer must have got it wrong. And anyway, he just left them there. And the story is that Srinivas Acharya finally somehow gets to know, he gets there, he finds it, and he also converts this king, Virhambira, into a nice devotee. So we will end here, if we have time, Santosh Mataji had suggested that maybe because of this appearance day of wonderful acharyas, maybe if we have time, we can sing the Jnana Dilo Pranadana Kirtan, but we'll see how that goes. One other announcement that Santosh Mataji also asked me to make, a sad announcement, is that this young lady, Geeta Mataji, Geeta Solanki Mataji, she is the daughter of Padma Ben, who serves at Soho Street at the kitchen. And Padma Ben is a friend of Shobhana Mataji, who comes to our Sangha, who comes to our start classes. She's a regular member of our start classes. So she is the one who gave the news, and we are requested to please pray for this young soul. She passed away very suddenly, apparently with a sudden brain hemorrhage at the age of around 40, I think, and she's got 3 young children. So let us all keep her in our prayers. So it's, do we have a choice? We go into questions and answers, or we go into the bhajan? What is people's choice?
Whatever you decide, Mukunda-Hari Prabhu, thank you.
Okay. I think because it was
Prabhuji, what did you say the second one was?
either question or we go into this Jnana Dilo Pranadana.
Second one.
Okay, Pranadana, fine. Okay, let me just go back to that picture. Oh, that picture won't be there because I'll have to share the screen. And okay, somebody needs to sing this.
I can sing, Prabhuji.
Who's this? Palika Mataji, right?
Mamta.
Mamta Mataji. Oh, wonderful. Yes, Mamta Mataji, if you can sing, please. Let me just get the thing on screen if I can. Okay, can everybody hear the lyrics?
Yes, the first
Yes,
one
Prabhu,
is
we can
yes,
sing.
Prabhuji.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Je anilo prema thala karuna prachur যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর হেন প্রভু কথা গেলা আচার্য ঠাকুর হেন প্রভু কথা গেলা আচার্য ঠাকুর যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর কহ মোর স্বরূপ রূপ কহ সনাতন কহ মোর স্বরূপ রূপ কহ সনাতন কহ দাস রঘুনাথ পতিত পাবন কহ দাস রঘুনাথ পতিত পাবন যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর কহ মোর ভট্ট যুগ কহ কবিরাজ কহ মোর ভট্ট যুগ কহ কবিরাজ এক কালে কথা গেলা গোরা নটরাজ একা কালে কথা গেলা গোরা নটরাজ যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর যে আনিলা প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর পাষাণে কুটিব মাথা অনলে পশিব পাষাণে কুটিব মাথা অনলে পশিব গৌরাঙ্গ গুণের নিধি কোথা গেলা পাব গৌরাঙ্গ গুণের নিধি কোথা গেলা পাব হে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর সে সব সঙ্গীর সঙ্গে যে কইল বিলাস সে সব সঙ্গীর সঙ্গে যে কইল বিলাস সে সঙ্গ না পায়া কান্দে নরোত্তম দাস সে সঙ্গ না পাইয়া কান্দে নরোত্তম দাস যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর Je anilo premadhana karuna prachur. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you,
Thank you
Prabhu.
so
Wonderful,
much.
wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Malta
Thank you,
Mataji, you
Prabhu.
have a very sweet voice and you sung it so nicely. It's such a nice song, such a sad song. But
Yes,
this song,
Prabhuji.
we of course with this song we sing whenever on the disappearance anniversaries, and also when any Vaishnav leaves his body, we recite this bhajan. What I want to do is just go through the
Thank you, Prabhuji.
translation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe I will request Joli Mataji if you can read the translations for us. It's 5 verses.
You possibly make it larger, please, Prabhu?
Okay, let me try. It's quite large on my screen, but let me try and see if I
Oh,
can.
let me see. I got an English version.
Okay, now I've got it big. Is it good enough?
I've got a copy here. It's okay.
Okay, I suppose you're on the phone, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. To the Supreme Lord, whose form is the
No,
embodied. No, not
No.
that one.
Not that one. We did. Okay.
Okay.
Do you
He
want
who
to-
brought.
Yeah. Go on. Yes.
Okay. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Advaita Acharya gone? Where are my Sarupa Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatana? Where is Raghunatha, Dasa, and the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunatha Bhatta and Gopala Bhatta? And where is Kanandasa Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottama Das simply weeps.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vaishnava Thakur Acharyas ki
Ki
jai.
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 Thank you so much. Thank you. So I have one question here. I'll just take quickly a question. This is from Surabhi Mataji. She's saying, Pranam, may I know the reason behind why the real harsh term death is addressed by very celestial term disappearance in ISKCON? So, Surabhi, a nice question, Surabhi Mataji. So basically, death is of the body, as we know, not of the soul. So we relate to each other in ISKCON, and especially to our acharyas on the soul level. So we don't talk about death because the death was of the body. That soul is still there and he appears and disappears. He doesn't die. If that makes sense, Surabhi Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Okay. That's it. I don't think there's any other questions.
Sorry, Mukunda Prabhu, please
Yes.
accept. One other thing, the Gopashtami, isn't that they had, because they went out very early. So isn't that the day the Brahmanas, they went for Brahmanas to ask for the prasad because they were feeling hungry early?
Is that okay? I'm not 100% sure whether
I
that
heard in
was
one
some-
of the lectures.
Okay, so that must be.
Yeah,
Okay.
they didn't take enough because they went, because Radharani went, nobody else knew that Radharani went. So they all went very early and they didn't take enough prasad. So that's the day they went to the Brahmanas for the prasad, and they said Krishna and Balaram is hungry and we need. So I think that's the day, as I remember in one of the lectures.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I hadn't realized that. So that pastime also happened on Gopashtami. That's very nice to hear. That is when the Yagic Brahmanas refused to give the prasadam. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you for sharing that. Surabhi Mataji, yes, it is. Gauranga refers to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes, thank you.
Yes, I got the answer. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So any last question before we close?
Sorry,
Any-
only if you have time, only if you have 1 minute, if
Okay,
it's
Shri Mata is
possible.
saying, can you explain little on the last confusing line?
Only if you
Oh,
have time.
yes, yeah. Yes,
Thank
I can. That's why it's very, yeah, very simple.
Thank you.
Basically,
Thank you.
it means that everything that is there. So the contribution, the contributor, the performer, the activity itself, and the result, all those things are on the absolute platform, and they're all spiritual. That is what is meant.
Okay, sorry, I did not understand. Whom are
Yeah.
we speaking
So
about?
okay, I'll repeat that. So when
Context.
we're
What is
doing
the
a
context?
spiritual
Sorry.
activity, because here in the material world, there's duality. So duality means that if I want to drink water, and if I say water, 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 my thirst will not be quenched. I need actual substance water to quench my thirst. So this is the nature of the material world. It's full of duality like this. Heat and cold, happiness and distress, all those things are dualities. But the spiritual world is diametrically opposite, and it has got no duality. So there, like we often understand, between the name and the personality, like Krishna and his name, there's no difference, the same. So that's why it is said, when we're chanting the names of the Lord himself is dancing on our tongues, because there's no difference between him and the Lord. So similarly, all the spiritual activities that we are doing, in terms of here, the example that you picked up from the purport, is that the contribution, which means people would contribute things for the Havan, right? The contributor, the contribution itself, the performer who performs the yajna, and the yajna itself, and the results you get. All those things are equally spiritual.
So are they equal to the Brahma Jyoti that you speak about?
Yeah, so Brahma Jyoti is one aspect of spirituality, yes. So that, yes, Brahma Jyoti is also spiritual. And yes, so in that sense, you can say this is all equal to Brahma Jyoti as well, but not limited to that Brahma Jyoti.
Because somewhere yeah, I mean, it was there in the text that, everything and everyone are just a part and a small part of the Brahma Jyoti. They are not the total Brahma Jyoti. And here it's said that, everything is Brahma, equivalent to Brahma Jyoti. So I'm trying to understand that.
Yeah.
It's not equal to the Lord. I mean, everyone and everything is not equal to the Lord. Yeah. And here it says that it is equal. Every activity is equated to it.
Yeah. See you tomorrow. See.
Yeah. So it is not that one is equal to the Lord in a sense that, okay, but in terms of the nature, we're equal to the Lord, not in terms of the quantity. So once we come like a spirit soul, we're part and parcel of the Lord. So once we are back in our spiritual nature, then in terms of our quality, we are the same as the Lord. So similarly, all the activities we do in the spiritual life, all those are in terms of quality, they're equal to the Lord.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a bit
Thank you.
confusing to me because somewhere I had read, people or activities who are termed as equal to Lord, they are called as Mayavadis or something on those lines.
Oh, no, exactly.
Sorry, I'm
So
getting
yes.
a bit confused. Sorry.
Then I see what you mean. So people who think they are the Lord themselves, if they see there's no difference between them, they see. Devotees always know that they are part and parcel of the Lord, and we are.
That's what I was trying to ask. We are just a small part of this whole thing.
Exactly.
And we
Exactly.
like equivalent to the supreme light. So I'm trying to understand the.
So this is the main thrust. Yeah, main thrust of Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji's philosophy is achintya bheda bheda tattva. That means that it's sort of how English translation is that in how they call it, well, inconceivably same and different at the same time. So in that sense, we are same in terms of quality, because we are by nature we're spiritual, as we said in the beginning of this class. So we are the same quality as Krishna, but Krishna is vast. He is Vibhu, we are Anu. So there is a difference in terms of quantity, but not in terms of quality if you are spiritual.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Pranam, thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Joli Mataji.
I'm so happy when I heard about the pastimes about Radharani dressing up with dhoti, and I wondered how she was received by the boys and the community.
Yes, I mean, details are not given, but it is said that she spent the day with the boys and nobody recognized her. Krishna obviously would have recognized her, but Krishna played along. But yeah, it must have been a lot of fun.
Wonderful, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody's
Wonderful
asking,
class.
yes, Surya is asking to share the kirtan and translation on the chat group. I will do that. And then, was there anything else? Just wondering, does the disappearance day mean the day they passed away? Yes, yes. It actually means the day that actually, again, we don't even use the word pass away so much. For spiritual personalities, and the Lord himself, we use the term, they wound up their activities in the material world. So then that actually means they passed away. Okay, devotees, it's quite late now, so we will close. Thank you so much for putting up with me again today. Yeah, I was there Tuesday and again today. And sorry for some of you who were looking forward to listening to the sweet voice of Madhu Kumari. Instead, you got a croaking voice of me.
Oh, Prabhuji, it was wonderful class. Thank you.
It was very wonderful class.
Absolutely.
Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Lovely
Thank you so
to
much.
listen to you.
Thank you so much, everybody. And
Thank you.
Santosh Mataji,
Hare
thank you
Krishna,
for your
Prabhuji, thank
suggestion.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Thank you, Mother.
Thank you so much. Thank Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Happy Gopashtami.
Hare
Namo
Krishna.
Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Mukesh
Hare
Bhai.
Krishna,
Hare
everybody.
Krishna.
Thank you very
Hare
much,
Krishna,
Happy
Prabhuji,
everybody.
for
Gopashtami.
lovely
Thank you.
class.
Happy
Hari
Krishna.
Wonderful
Bol.
class. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class.
Hare Krishna, Mukunda-Hari Prabhuji. Thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna, Surya Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Mukesh
Yeah,
Bhai,
we
બહુ
could,
આનંદ કરાવો છો.
Veeraben, thank you so much for your encouragement. Hare
બહુ
Krishna.
આનંદ કરાવો છો ના. તમને બસ હંમેશા ભક્તિ મળ્યા કરે.
તમારો આશીર્વાદ હોય તો બસ એ જોઈએ. That's it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Kanta Mataji. Thank you so much for your contribution, Kanta Mataji.
I really enjoyed, Prabhuji. Your class is beautiful, just amazing. I loved it.
Thank you for your encouragement, Mataji. It's Krishna's mercy and blessings of senior devotees like yourselves. Hare Krishna.
Me not. I'm just a beginner. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right, devotees, thank you so much. See you all next week.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
You know,
Thank you so
Gopa
much.
Mataji, thank you so much
Wonderful
for
class.
joining.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all.